What if I told you that before Ryan Gosling was a leading man, that he gave one of the most quietly devastating performances of the 2000s? Before he was that leading man and blockbuster star as we know him today, he gave one of the most raw and stripped down performances of his career in a $700,000 indie film that almost feels like it's barely holding itself together. That film is Half Nelson, and it's not a redemption story. It's not a teacher saves the student movie. If anything, it's the opposite. It's about failure, it's about dependency, and it's about that uncomfortable space in between. So today we're kicking off a new segment on Beneath the Bloom with Keeping Up with Indies, where we revisit films like this and ones that quietly shaped careers, performances, and maybe even the direction of indie film itself. I'm Ben, and I'll be here with Nick Finno, and today we're talking Half Nelson. Keeping Up with Indies with Nick Finno. Here we are, episode
Here
one.
we are. Here we
Uh,
are.
Here we are, yes. Today we're talking about Half Nelson, one of my favorite indie films. Half Nelson follows Dane Dunn, a middle school history teacher in Brooklyn, struggling with drug addiction, whose life becomes intertwined with one of his students, Dre. As the two form an unlikely bond, the film explores cycles of dependency, mentorship, and the gray areas between failure and redemption. The director was Ryan Fleck, and he wrote it with Anna Boden. This was released 20 years ago, 2006. It was a budget of 700,000. Domestic box office made 2.7. Fairly successful film theatrically.
I mean, it's
Oh.
crazy to think that that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I gave it a
Okay.
3.3. You
3.3.
can't do 3.3, but
No, you can't.
if I was given the option, I would give it a 3.3. Where to start? I mean, there's one scene. I mean, I think we can dive into the story a little bit later,
Yeah.
but the one scene where Ryan Gosling's character is dancing with the student in the school. It was difficult to see him as a protagonist,
Right.
which made me think that the story is about her.
Yes. I
That she's the main character. I mean,
I
they're
think
both co-lead characters, but the story is about her and her world.
yeah, I totally agree. Just
But
yeah.
I find it a little difficult to say that because Ryan Gosling has so much screen time. He's in what, almost every scene.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
So
yeah, I guess I would say rephrase this one of my favorite Gosling performances just because I'm not even really a big Gosling guy to begin with.
you're not.
And but when it comes to something like this, he hasn't done an indie film in gosh, probably a decade, decade and a half at least. I agree with you. I mean, I think it's you're supposed to feel icked out. That's the point, right? When he's, pretty much grinding on her. Not pretty much he is.
I
Uh
mean, not to mention the sexual assault with I'm blanking on her name, but the teacher.
yeah. I mean, he's clearly a messed up guy. I think to me there's two scenes that really like stuck out besides I mean that one obviously, but just more from like I really like this or this is what I liked from the film. I thought he did a good job as well as the girl when she finds him in the bathroom,
Yep.
like
What is
doing
it? Meth
yeah,
or
the
or
crack, I
coke?
think.
Like yeah, crack.
So
So she's not like just walking in the aftermath.
no,
She's like watching
in the
her
process,
teacher do it in the process.
yeah,
And then later on, he's like, "Oh, this could be our little secret." And
yeah,
it's like, how am I supposed to root for this guy?
yeah. I don't,
And
I don't think you're supposed to feel like you're rooting for this guy, and I think that's why it is. I mean, it's a sad film and it's a dark film in many ways, but that's why I think it's one of his better performances because it feels layered in a way that it doesn't always feel for me. It feels with him often one dimensional.
I mean, that's probably why I disliked the character so
Yeah,
much because it was so convincing.
yeah,
Um, what are your, do you feel like his character had like a full-on arc? Because in the beginning, I look at it like if you take the very beginning and the very end. does he make the same choice?
I think he changes in the sense of like he's more reflective and more understanding of the person that he is or has become by the end of the film. I mean, there's that crazy moment where she like walks in on him in some kind of cracked out hotel with a bunch of prostitutes, and he doesn't even like try to block it because I think there's some kind of, I wouldn't say it's a good understanding, but an understanding between the two that like this is who he is. That's not like a great character arc for the character because he's still a pretty bad person. And I think one of the my favorite scene in the whole film is when he shows up to Anthony Mackie's place, and
Hmm.
Anthony Mackie's there with his friends, and you can tell it's a little bit of a probably a lower middle class neighborhood, and he's a drug dealer, Anthony Mackie, right? Like he's not necessarily a great person himself. He's also black. Ryan Gosling is a white middle school teacher for this young girl, and she has lost her brother in part to Anthony Mackie through, you know,
Framing him, taking the fall for him.
exactly, right. So he shows up and he's like ready, Ryan Gosling, right? Dane Dunn. And he's ready to just eviscerate Anthony Mackie. Like he's ready to just go in and say, hey, you know, get away from her. You have nothing to do with her. This is, not your place. I'm the right role model. And so you kind of get this weird dichotomy where it's like, I don't think Ryan Fleck, the director, was saying, oh, this is good or this is bad, but that's what I think is kind of the beautiful part of this film is that they show how murky life can be. They show how murky life can be in an area like this, where there's a lot of poverty, where it's not easy to make friends and go to school and make money. I feel like that comes across when you have these two guys that both think they're doing the right thing, but are completely immoral. Like, could not be
Like the
further.
intention is there. You can't get any worse than what they what they do.
Literally, no, like literally.
Uh,
So,
but I mean, going circling back to your Anthony Mackie point, it's like Ryan Gosling is he's like sweating, he's got the red eyes,
yeah,
but Anthony Mackie's Frank doesn't come across that way.
no,
So it's that's what was so interesting to me because it's like, okay, I have this main character who is the protagonist, but he's acting like a villain. Meanwhile, the antagonist is the most normal guy in
yeah,
the film.
yeah,
Um, so I mean, it's like the film touches on not everything's black and white and not everything is linear. And I mean, I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, just because it's relatable
yeah,
and you can apply it to any era um that you're living in. I mean,
totally.
you can go back to like 100 years, or you can like apply it to life now, or you can predict what life will be like in 100 years and it'll still resonate.
But yeah, I think this film, even being 20 years old, as you said, it does still, it still works. It still resonates. And Gosling was Oscar nominated for this performance. These are real indie directors. After this, they have a kind of doc indie film about a baseball immigration story about this guy from the Dominican Republic called Sugar in 2008. They then make the indie poker film starring Ben Mendelsohn and Ryan Reynolds, Mississippi Grind, which I thought was solid. I'm not a big poker guy, but I think it's, averaging 3.2, 3.3 on Letterboxd. 4 years later, they take Captain Marvel.
Those directors who go from indie films to those big blockbusters, I mean, they got they made a great film and now they get rewarded with bigger budgets. When you follow like an actor or director from like when they started with like such small budgets to where everybody knows their name in every major city around the
Yeah.
country. With Half Nelson, I didn't expect a lot of what happened. I didn't expect him to get caught in the bathroom, like we talked about. I
Right.
didn't expect him to start grinding on Dre at the school
No.
dance. Um, I fully expected him to get fired at some point, and he never did.
I think my favorite quote from the film, and it feels like to me one of the only times, because you get the sense that he is charismatic, that people do gravitate to him in a certain extent, um, because they find him interesting. And I only feel there's one moment where he's really talking somewhat truthfully. He's lying within the truth, but it's some self-reflection that we don't really get from the character throughout the rest of the film. So he says, I used to be so fucked. And this is why I think he's preparing a line of cocaine. I used to be so fucked up. I was just out there, but I fucking cleaned
Hmm.
up. I cleaned up. Then he snorts a lot of cocaine. For the most part, I do it now to get by, but I can handle it. You know what I mean? I tried the rehab thing. I tried it, but it didn't work. Didn't work. It works for some people. My ex-girlfriend is getting married. That's how it works for some people, right? Didn't work for me. But the kids keep me focused. It's just a crazy little monologue of his, I think. And
I
I don't
mean,
know.
you have him saying one thing, but then his actions are saying the complete opposite. I got my life together. Meanwhile, he's like hooking up with these two people and like doing cocaine off them. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I love my students. Like they keep me sane." It's like, bro, you just almost tried to fight Dre's like family member, or
Yeah,
close friend, and like you're overstepping your boundaries of
of being a
of
teacher.
being a teacher. You're giving
Yeah.
her a ride home, like giving her a ride home every day.
I don't know if you found this. This is one of the things I think, yeah, the film does really well is its depiction of addiction. Because like those lines like that makes it feel more real to me. Like somebody like a real person, I can see saying something like, I've tried rehab, but it's not for me. And now the way I do it, I can handle it. Like they're different than somebody else. And almost like they're talking to nothing. And I think you kind of get that sense in that scene because he's talking to the two girls, I believe, that are in the room, who we never even see the faces of, which is another magical little, I think, filmmaking technique or tool, right?
Right. I mean, what you talked about, like, oh, I tried the therapy, it didn't work. I mean, that's where the relatability comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we've all said like, oh yeah, I tried therapy. It just didn't work. I tried this diet. I tried going to the gym New Year's Eve, New Year's Day resolution, and it just wasn't me. I'll try again in a few weeks. But you can
I
pick
get
and
what you meant.
choose what area you can apply it to. I mean, again, it's just a relatable film that can be applied in any era.
Well, you get the sense that he has this whole ideology that he can do what he does and still be the great role model guy, like, and still be like a pseudo father figure to Dre. But obviously, as we said, it's that beautiful contradiction of the words he says versus the actions he takes in real time. Totally.
It'd be an entirely different story if he said he was like, "Oh, I'm the worst teacher ever." Like, I'm like, and then he's doing drugs.
Yeah,
But I mean, he's just a more interesting person with those contradictions.
totally, totally. Yeah, so final thoughts. Does this film still matter? What would you give it, and would you recommend it?
I mean, I mean, if you care about systematic challenges in both education and about the struggles in inner cities and um, economically challenged areas, then this is a film anyone would watch.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
it's definitely highly recommended. Those type of films are hard to make.
Yeah, no,
And this
really
was
hard to
hard
make.
to make, and
Yeah,
it's
it's powerful and it's a good film and it keeps you engaged. I would kind of agree with you. I would say, being a more kind of conservative film critic now, I would give it a 3.5. That's not to say I don't think it's probably more 3.7. Yeah, definitely would recommend it. It's pretty easy to watch. I know some, films these days. especially older films fall through the cracks.
What was it, an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours? It went by really quick.
Very
Like I
quick.
never felt like it was like a slog fest because
Yeah.
you were always on the edge of your seat or like always like thinking about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Keeping up with indies. First episode, half Nelson, 3.5 from both of us, and a yes on the recommendation. Go check it out if this is a type of film that interests you.